Okay, welcome to the show. Today is a really, really exciting one. We've got Stefan Thomas, the author of Business Networking for Dummies, a couple other books that are fantastic, and we're going to get into them, Win the Room being one of them. We've had Stefan on the show before, but I brought him back on to the Expert's Blueprint because he fits the formula of the Expert Blueprint to a T. Stefan, thank you for coming on.
Do you know what? Facebook tells me it's a year since we did this, a year this week since we did this before. So I'm really thrilled to be back. I am. I'm up there. You had a Navy SEAL on the other day as well, so I'm up there with people like that, which I find really exciting. Actually, I'm really flattered that you have me back.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of growth that can happen in a year, and where this podcast has gone and the direction it's going in. So thank you. I don't often get to sit back and realize that. So it's just a testament of our friendship and what's grown. So it's really, really cool. I want to start with an impact question, as I always do. Business networking is what you're good at. It's something that I've personally seen this year drive massive results for me. When was the tipping point for you where you finally realized this networking thing has legs? This is a good thing. What was that moment or that light bulb that went, this is why you do networking?
Do you know what? I think it was a dimmer switch rather than a light going on immediately. I think that's the truth. So I first went to a networking event in 2005, or something that was actually called a networking event. I saw something in it right then. That was November 2005. When I started my own business in 2007, I knew it was going to work for me. And it was working. I was learning a lot along the way, but at that point, I wasn't making any sales from networking. That's the truth. I didn't get it right for the first year or so. And my first sale from networking, which was about 6 months in, was for £45 GB sterling. So that didn't pay for many breakfasts or attendances at networking events. But then I just got, out of desperation, just got better and better at it. It's quite difficult to quantify, to be really honest with you, Tim. But then, when was it? 2012. They asked me to write the book, and I sort of hadn't really acknowledged that I was doing sort of rather well out of it at that point. And so it's. When you say when was the light bulb moment, it's more like a dimmer switch coming on slowly. There wasn't one moment where I thought, yeah, this is happening now. Part of that is me. I'm never completely satisfied with my own progress, which is something I've talked about before. So I'm constantly looking to get to the next bit, I guess. There you go.
Yeah. Well, therefore, I guess I could reiterate the question and ask, why is business networking, face-to-face and Zoom, why is it something every small to medium business should consider doing?
There's a whole load of reasons why they should. You know what? Right now, the biggest reason why I believe businesses should invest in networking in some way is the support. Where you're based, where I'm based, we've all had a strange year. We've all had a really weird year where everything has changed beyond measure, and just having a load of other business owners around us so that I can talk to you. And, we talk pretty much every day. I talk to Edward Zia over in Sydney. I talk to him once a month or so. And just so that we can say, how's it going for you? How have you got through this period, and get support from our peers? I think that's one of the main reasons why people should go right now. The second reason, which probably people would expect me to put first, is that business, and particularly business to business, is all about trust. So in order to get to trust you to look after all of my videos and so on, I needed to get to know you a little bit. So that's what networking is. We were introduced by the wonderful Edward Zia, and we got to know each other over a year or so now after that. And so I trust you to do that work for me. It's the same with everyone else. Going, and I know in Australia, you can do it right now. In England, we still can't really meet people face to face, but it's going to start in the next month or so. Going and sharing a coffee with someone and just having a chat about how was your journey this morning? How's business for you? Just that process of getting to know someone helps us move along that thing that we talk about in networking quite a lot, the know, like, and trust, or meet, like, know, trust. The more that we can move towards that position of trust, then we know whether we trust someone enough to do business with them. Then we know whether we trust someone enough to introduce them to our best client as well. That trust thing is definitely aided by spending more time with people. And networking, for me, has been the greatest and simplest way to do that.
There's so much I want to touch on with that, even like how our friendship turned into a business relationship as well. But for somebody who's listening to this in the car because they wanted to learn how to nail networking and they're on their way to a networking event right now, and that's why they're listening to this podcast, let's talk to you, Sally, John, Peter, whoever your name is, give you some tips right now that you can take into the room to do it properly. I think this is going to be a really amazing bit of advice. What would you tell them?
Right. So let's reel back to why I'm here this morning with you at 9 o'clock in the morning UK. Why am I coming on the Expert's Blueprint? Why am I coming on your podcast and show? And there's a reason. I mean, one of the reasons is that we're friends and I get on with you and I enjoy talking to you. And the other reason is that this will start some conversations with people. When some people listen to this podcast or watch the videos, they will know that I exist. People will connect with me on LinkedIn and so on. It will start conversations. When someone goes to a networking event, all that they really need to do is start conversations. I really want to simplify this for people. A load of people think that they have to achieve something when they go to a networking event. And I reckon the first biggest piece of advice that I can give to people is to set their bar quite low. All that you need to do at a networking event is start a conversation. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. All that I'm looking to do when I go to any networking event is start that conversation with people. So when you go along, all that you're looking to do, whether it's a virtual networking event, whether you're turning up in real life, is to start some conversations with people that you can then take further. So much of what works in networking happens before and after networking events. So what you do in the follow-up, what you do with those conversations is at least as important as what you do at the networking event. So when you're talking to people, all that you're looking to do is start a conversation. You're not looking to sell anything to them. You're not looking to get anything from them. You're looking to start a relationship that might lead somewhere. If you go to relatively formal networking events where you deliver a 60 or 40-second introduction, then again, the point of that introduction is just to give people enough that they want to find out more. People think that they have to stuff their introduction with all of this stuff about their business, but all to use an expression that you used just now, all that you're looking to do is to create a light bulb moment with someone that they think, oh God, yeah, I need to talk to that guy and find out more about what he or she does. All that you're looking to do at any networking event is start a conversation. So I'm treating this podcast as a networking event. I want to deliver tons of value to your listeners and viewers so that some of them start conversations with me. Same applies when you go along to a networking event.
So one of the biggest things, we've just started going back face-to-face networking here in Australia, and I went to my very first face-to-face network. I love networking. I've got the box of contacts here. You and I get along because of that reason. And even I was nervous and worried about the event. I was nervous about meeting people. I was nervous about what to do and all that kind of thing. But you were in my head because I was editing your videos. You were in my head going, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't have to make the biggest noise. And it matters more what you do after the networking event than what you do at the networking event. So can you please, you'll get business cards. I've got business cards here. Or you'll get a list of people that you'll write down on a Zoom thing. What can you do after the event knowing that that matters? And then how does that actually make you less stressed? Because I went into this networking event completely calmed because I just went in starting conversations and knowing that it's what I do after the networking event that counts. So what do you do after that is actually the thing that makes sense or makes impact?
I know you're clever and will probably edit it out, but all that rustling was for a purpose just then. Because in England, we are still doing virtual networking events. So every time I go, here's my notebook. You know that I like tech for everything. But when I go to networking events virtually, I keep a notebook next to my desk and I write down the names of the people that I want to meet. We're not changing business cards because we're not actually seeing each other in the UK. But I write down the names of the people that I've had conversations with so that when it comes to the end of the networking event, I can immediately go onto LinkedIn and type a real quick message. Simon was the name at the top of that list. I remember the conversation. Hey, Simon, great to see you at the Oxfordshire networking event this morning. I live in Oxford in England. You mentioned to me, Simon, that you were interested in finding out about this. Here's a resource that I really like that I hope you find helpful. Let's keep in touch. That's what I do after networking events. I don't try and sell people on anything at all. I get in touch with them, say, it was great to meet this morning. I reference our conversation. Another reason why I write things down, I don't trust my memory completely. So I make notes of stuff. And then I connect with them primarily on LinkedIn these days and send them what I think is useful information. And increasingly, as we can in Oxfordshire, depending on where the conversation goes, I might suggest we hook up for a coffee or something like that. I keep the conversation going. What a load of people do when they go networking is they think that they've been there. I won't try and get a business card out. It'll make too much noise. It's under a pile of stuff because I've not used them for ages. If they think that they've given someone their business card, they expect the other person to remember them. And I completely turn that on its head. Instead of expecting everyone to remember me, I put effort into keeping in touch with them. And it is effort. The real opportunity, even as I'm saying this, is that most people won't bother because it requires putting a load of effort in. What loads of people think they do is meet people, and then those people will remember me. All I need to do is put adverts out there for my business. I keep in touch with people at significant scale. So once I've met them, I try and keep the conversation going. It's not 100% perfect, but I keep the conversation warm because then guess what? If I put the effort into keeping in touch with them, they will come back and look at my stuff and they'll look at the content I'm putting out there. They'll look at interviews like this, which I'm doing, all of the other videos and articles and so on that I'm putting out there. And that's when the relationship starts to move forward, but it's mutual. I don't rely on people just coming to me. Once I've met them at a networking event, I get into their space on their LinkedIn, keeping in touch with them and so on and so forth. So it is about keeping the conversation going. Where it reduces the stress, just remembering that part of the question, is that people put themselves under pressure to perform at the networking event itself. And yet people who are the shyest, quietest people who are introverts such as me can really win at networking events just by starting conversations and taking the pressure off themselves that they somehow have to shine or really, be the loudest voice in the room. So much of what we do at networking event, so much of what we do at networking after the event is what's important. And that takes the stress off because I don't feel that I have to, shine or perform when I'm at the networking event itself.
I think that's really powerful, especially for an introvert. I love networking because I'm an extrovert, but I'm also not the loudest person in the room. Like, I'm extroverted enough to, I'll jump to this group, I'll walk around the room like nobody's business and meet whoever I want. And that's why I love networking. But I don't want to be the person yelling and screaming and I don't know who the guy was who it was at your first networking event, got up and did this loud speech, and you'd take inspiration from him.
The late and very much missed, particularly here in Oxfordshire, particularly here in Witney, the town that I live in, the late Jamie McIntyre from Abacus. My inspiration at networking, because when I first went to networking, Jamie was such a big character and he did everything right. So another example of Jamie's brilliance, which Edward Zia has got as well, is that Jamie always had a job at the networking event. Like, he would be the guy checking people in, and it used to cost £10 to go to a networking event here. We used to pay in cash. So Jamie would be the guy at the front desk taking everyone's £10, and think about the genius of that. Everyone who came in through the door, Jamie would be, hey, Steve, how are you doing? And Steve had probably brought a new colleague with him. And so Steve would say, hey, this is that Jamie that I told you about. So Jamie would get to meet everyone on their way in. And then he did this huge 60 seconds, which was shouted. And the bizarre thing is that I thought at first that that's how you had to be. But I realized afterwards that the other thing that Jamie was brilliant at was using the networking event as an excuse, because he could walk into any business here in Witney where he did business, walk into pretty much any business, because he did door-to-door sales. That's what he really did. But every business that he walked into knew him. It wasn't ever cold, because every business had been invited along to the local networking at some point. So when Jamie pitched up at a lawyer's or an accountant's or one of the local independent shops, it wasn't just some guy walking in off the street. It was, oh, hey, I'm Jamie. You remember you met me this morning at the networking event. Clever guy. It's how I use networking. So
yeah,
no conversation is ever a cold call. It's exactly the way that I've used it over the years.
And that leads into, so it's important what you do after the event. It's also just as important you do before the event. You've had networking events where you've been to. Now people know you because they've seen the content that you've been putting out, or they know you because of this, or you've had a conversation before going to the networking event. This actually happened to me live. I had a conversation with someone on a Zoom just to get to know them, 15 minutes. A week goes by, we see each other at the same networking event. He pulls me aside and says, hey, Tim, based on the conversation we had last week, I've been having a think, and this is how we can work together, and it's actually a project for me, so I want you to bill me. And I like, based on the conversation we had, now I've thought about it and I've met you in person, meet, like, know, trust, all of that kind of stuff. That's why networking's powerful.
Yeah, I've written about this. It's those what I describe as the "I've been meaning to call you" moments. So what I do with your very significant help is that I put a load of content out there. So when I say content, these aren't adverts. This is helpful advice about networking. This is what works for my business, and it will work for a ton of your listeners as well. So that very often when I turn up at a networking event, people have already seen my content. We are having a hybrid event here in Oxford in a couple of weeks' time. A load of it will be delivered by Zoom, but also at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, we're actually meeting in person. And why wouldn't I go to that? Because when I walk in, a load of the people will have heard of me because I've appeared on a load of shows here in Oxfordshire recently. I've put a load of content out there. I've shared a load of stuff about this event that's coming up. So a load of people will have heard of me. And what happens is people come up to me and say, oh, you're Stefan. I've been meaning to call you. How brilliant is that? I repeat that I'm introverted. I express, I show quite differently because I know that I have to appear as extroverted in business. But for me, turning up to a networking event and people come into me, right, Stefan, tell me about your training courses. Have you worked with lawyers? So on and so forth. How brilliant is that? when people start conversations with me rather than me having to go up to them. And all of that is because of the volume of brilliant video contents that you help me put out there, the articles I put out there. Yesterday I even put out there that the actual template for people to create their own networking introduction, which I know a load of people have downloaded. And then some of those people will come up to me and say, look, I've looked at your template. Can you help me? And that then leads to a business conversation. So it's, on the one hand, I put content out there. I don't ask people to type in their email address to get it or anything like that. People can have it. I'm always told by business coaches I'm not meant to use the word free, but it is. That's what it is. I give it out there for free. But then when I turn up at a networking event, people say, right, you wrote that article yesterday. Can you help me with networking? It's such a brilliant way to ensure that when you turn up at an event, people know who you are. And it all goes round in a circle. Because when I meet someone at a networking event, then they check me out online if they've not met me before and find out that I put all of this content. But then some people have found the content before they've ever met me. To the extent that I have people coming to my flagship event, the networking retreat, who've never met me in real life. They buy. And you know, it's not insignificant. It's £1,000 in UK money for them to come, but they find out about me online and actually buy a place at the networking retreat before they've ever met me. You really can make a huge difference to the trust before and after the networking event based on how much effort you put into it.
And that again comes back to the real opportunity is nobody will put in the effort. No one bothers. So if you're the one that bothers, you get the opportunity.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. I know people get wound up about this. Should I be putting stuff out there or should I be charging people for it? YouTube exists. I can find free training on pretty much anything that I want if I want to search hard enough on YouTube. And yet, let's face it, I could go onto YouTube, I could buy a course on Skillshare or something like that, and I could learn how to do videos myself. But I don't. You put a load of content out there that if I digested all of your content on podcasts, for example, if I digested all of that, genuinely, would I really need to pay someone to help me with a podcast? And yet, because you put all of that out there, I can see that you're a generous guy, and I can look at some of it and think, do you know what? My time will be better spent doing what I do whilst Tim gets on with my videos and podcasts. People get het up with this idea that, I'm not going to put it all out there. I'm going to get people to pay for it. The more stuff I put out there for free, the more books I sell, the more I get invited to speak, the more people want to work with me one-to-one. It hugely builds up the trust.
The thing is, if people say, wow, this is what they did for me for free, what will happen if I pay? So let's talk about how we started working together. We did a podcast together 12 months ago. After that podcast, I said, hey, Stefan, do you have any keynote speeches that you've done that I can take a look at? You sent me a 40-minute speech that you did that was filmed really nicely. I then, for free, cut up 3 videos of yours. I gave them to you. You said, these are fantastic. Thank you. But, the funny thing is it was during COVID. Not the best time to start an ongoing relationship with a videographer in Australia. Or video editor in Australia. I'm not a videographer. I'm a video marketer, not a videographer. I've got mates who are videographers. They do great stuff. Shout out to them. However, 12 months later, we did a chat just to catch up, see how you're doing. You told me you had COVID. We got talking again, and you said, oh, by the way, I want to ramp up my content. How can we work together? But the thing is, since then, those same videos that I produced for you, you repurposed and put them out. 2 of them got 1,000 views, more probably now, which probably led to new connections, which has led to messages, which has led to a whole range of opportunities of this. And what I did was what you just said. I gave you free value, which you went, I need more of this. How can I do more of it? and now we're working together. And that's just a classic example of networking and then providing value on the back end. And I think you'll smile at that, right? And that process wasn't a traditional sales process where you might feel a bit of purchase regret. It's my personal belief that you don't feel purchase regret because of the quality of service on the back end, and shout out to Bean Talking, the quality of service on the back end and the relationship that we keep up. But that wouldn't have happened if, one, I didn't start the little conversation by having you on my podcast. Two, wouldn't have happened if I didn't keep in touch with you and remind you that I existed, which is another thing you said. Yep. And then three, provided the content and the value. That's just me dissecting everything that you've talked about for the last 20 minutes on the show, right?
Two important conversations that have happened, which I'll share with you on that subject. So I spoke to my mum this morning. I speak to my mum most mornings, and she said, I don't know where you find the time. Because, we were just chatting, asking how her is, asking how she is, asking how dad is. She said, how are you? I said, I'm quite busy today, which is true. It's, 25 to 10 here. And, so I've got pretty much back-to-back meetings. I think I've got 3 podcast interviews today, which is really flattering. And mum said, I don't know where you get the time, because you put all that stuff on Instagram and Facebook that she sees. I put even more on LinkedIn. And I said, well, I as it goes, Mum, I work with this guy called Tim, and whenever I do a speech, like I did the social media and marketing show yesterday, I said, I send that video over to Tim, and then Tim finds the good bits and he chops it out and he gives it me in a format that I can put onto LinkedIn and places. And actually, Sharon, shout out to Sharon, it's Sharon that's creating all of the graphics that go on Instagram, for example. I said, so I do my thing, and then I've got this team of people behind me who do the other stuff, which then makes it so that I get to be seen everywhere. And Mum said, oh, that's clever. I had no idea, and, so on and so forth. So my mum notices. So that's important.
Hi, Mum.
Hello, Mum.
We've got one listener, yes.
My mum is Sue Thomas, and she will definitely like this when it goes on Facebook. And the second thing is that I'm doing the Namecheap Expert Summit. So Namecheap are the world's second largest commercial domain registry, based in California. They have 2 million customers. They have over 10 million domains under management. And I'm doing their expert summit because 2 things joined up. The wonderful Veronica Pullen gave me the nod that they were looking for experts for the summit. Hey, Veronica. And when I put my name forward, Emily, who's running the summit for Namecheap, hi, Emily, my name's Stefan. I'm the author of this book. Emily checked me out. So once I'd put my name forward to be part of the Namecheap Expert Summit, which they've paid me to do, which will go out to over 2 million people, it's a big deal for me. Namecheap checked me out, because obviously when they put out their Expert Summit, they want people to be credible. So one of 2 things can have happened. Namecheap checked me out and found that I put videos on LinkedIn, and they could see that I was active, and I've got a YouTube channel and an Instagram channel. They could see, A, that I've got an audience. Secondly, that I can speak about networking like I'm doing now, and I'm credible and, come across as professional and so on. Or the alternative would have been that Namecheap could have checked me out and found nothing there. What made it more likely that Namecheap would actually hire me to be part of their expert summit? All of this stuff demonstrated to Namecheap that I was credible, demonstrated that they could trust me. So 2 important conversations. A, my mum thinks that I'm flat out 18 hours a day creating videos and stuff, and it's all I do is talk to people. You do the clever stuff in the background. It makes it look as if I'm omnipresent. I'm all over the place. And secondly, actual commercial clients check me out before they buy. People are doing the same to you. Whoever's listening to this, whoever's viewing this, people are checking you out before they buy from you. Your choice, whether you've got content out there which enhances your credibility, or whether you've got nothing and your competitor has. The alternative would have been that Namecheap would have found nothing on my LinkedIn profile, but a ton of stuff on some other guy's profile who also talks about networking. And if that had been the case, they would have chosen him. That's the absolute reality of networking in 2021. There you go.
The thing I love about that is I've been saying this for years. A lot of people think I shouldn't do organic content because the algorithms don't reward me and I don't get. It's not about people seeing it. It's not about people liking it even. It's about the fact that people see it, and when they research you, they come back, they look at your Facebook, they look at your Instagram, they look at your LinkedIn, and if you've got dust balls going through and nothing, they're not gonna. The chance of them doing business with you versus when you do have something there. When you do have something there, the chance of them doing business with you increases significantly, and there's a lived example of you doing that. So. Thank you for bringing that topic up, for sure.
But join all of this stuff up, because here's something else that it's not about the number of people who look at your content. And this is really, really important. We've talked about the numbers, and it's, I get excited if I get more than 1,000 views on anything at all. I genuinely do.
Of course. But we all would.
It's not about those 1,000 people. It's about the one. It's about the one person. It's about, and I do spot this, and I could name them. What about that person who's been liking everything I put out for a month now? Literally everything I put on LinkedIn, literally everything I put on Instagram. A few people like everything. So just think about this for a second. In February, I ran the Networking Success Program, which was it's £200, so it's relatively low price for people to join. Those people who are paying a ton of attention to you, what I then did was put out a low risk offer. People could join, not spend a huge amount of money, work with me for a month. So a load of those people who have been paying a lot of attention to my content decided to take that low risk and work with me. A load of those people who took that low risk and worked with me are now working with me one-to-one, which is a higher ticket as well. So keep an eye on, that's probably the wrong expression, but pay attention to the one. The person who's really paying attention to your content, because you should find an excuse to go and talk to that person. Because if they're paying that much attention, they're interested in what you're doing. If you had a shop and someone was looking in the window every day, after a few days, you'd go out and say good morning to them. You'd go out and engage them in conversation. Do the same with the people who are paying avid attention to your content. But you can only do that if you put the content out there in the first place.
This relates to something I'm very, very interested about, and that is starting the small conversation with the person that you even underestimate. So I go to a bunch of networking events where there's 50-year-old people with suit and ties on. They see me as a 27-year-old and they look me up and down and they go, "What have you got to offer?" In their head. They don't say that, but I see it. I see the people keeping me at arm's distance and I smile because it's fantastic. But you've actually got a story where someone specifically said, "I don't think you are the decision maker," and what happened 6 months down. So tell us you'll tell the story better than me, but this is why I want to get people understanding that never underestimate people in the room.
Yeah, I think the first bit that I've got to say is that I am about twice your age. That sucks. That sucks big time. I wish you hadn't told me that. God, I've just done the maths on that one. That's ruined my day.
No, that's why you've hired me, though. That's why you've hired me.
So I've completely lost my train of thought. Do you know what? People get this wrong. People hugely overvalue the people that they can't see. People desperately try and get to, the person in the pinstripe suit at the back of the room, and they undervalue the person who's right in front of them. I got to do some work with Lloyds Bank, and Lloyds Bank in the UK are a big deal. They own banks under different brands and that sort of thing all over the UK and so on. And I got chatting to a guy Paul McCluskey, who was manning the stand at a lawyers show, a seminar, a conference for lawyers that I was speaking at. And I got chatting to Paul when he was taking down the pop-up banners around the stands at the end of the day. Neither Paul nor me are particularly tall, so taking down pop-up banners was something we both struggled with and we both had in common. Paul he's moved on to other things now, but he was the head of professional practices for Lloyds Banking Group in the UK. He was responsible for all of the bank accounts for lawyers, accountants, architects in the UK. He was a big shot. And on the day, he was the guy who was taking down the pop-up banners. And a load of people sort of walked past him, and I got chatting to Paul and ended up doing some work for Lloyds Bank. And in Paul's new business, we're still in touch. We're still doing stuff together as well. Never underestimate the people who are in the room. Other people are so keen to get to other people. By the same token, I like to think I'm quite understated, the way that I dress and present at networking events and so on. You reminded me of this the other day. I had a guy say to me years ago, I went to a networking event in Lincolnshire, somewhere up in the north of England. And this guy said to me, "So what do you do?" And I explained at the time I was a director of For Networking, who were running the networking event that he was at. And he literally looked me up and down. I was wearing jeans and a shirt a bit like this. And said, but are you a shareholder director or are you just a director? I was proud to be a director of a company. This was a big honor for me. And this guy had just shot me down in flames. I'd ascended to be a director of someone else's business. And I said, no, I'm just a director of the limited company. And weeks and weeks later, that guy approached our company to try and sell us something.
Oh, hang on. What was his comment before that? Because he's now judged you. Yeah. No,
he had justed me because he said to me, I really need to deal with the shareholders.
He said you're not the decision maker.
You're not the decision. Okay.
Yeah.
I need you to do this part for me because you know the story better than me.
Well, I just edited it. That's why.
So he said, I tend to find that the shareholders are the ones who I need to speak to because they make the decisions. This guy was a business coach. That was his business. He approached us later on to try and sell us services, and the shareholders forwarded the email to me. I can't remember, but it said something like, "Hey, Steph, this guy's approached us. Can you deal with it?" And so I responded politely to the guy, and it must have. Do you know what? I imagine he didn't even remember my name. Is the reality? I imagine he didn't even remember my name, but. Just imagine if he'd put in effort into building a relationship with me, I would have said, "Oh yeah, he's a nice guy. Let me set up a phone conversation with him." By the same token, I do a load of work here in the UK with an organisation called Utility Warehouse. They are a multi-level network marketing, telecoms and utilities provider. Every networking event you go to in the UK, there's someone there from Utility Warehouse. And I get to work with the company themselves. I provide training for them, speak at their events. So when they got wind of me, when they heard my name, the wonderful Wes Linden, who's very senior in Utility Warehouse, when Wes first got to know me and was thinking of putting me on to speak at his events, Wes checked me out. I'm back to talking about people checking me out again. And Wes spoke to a load of people who I had met at networking events and said, "So this Steph Thomas, what's he like?" Two things could have happened there. People said, "Oh yeah, he seems like a nice guy. Actually saw him speaking at a networking event. He was pretty good." Or people could have said, "Yeah, that guy's an arsehole. He never talked to me at a networking event. I was just from Utility Warehouse," and so on. I look for the book. The book's just over there. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Make friends with everyone. Don't judge people based on what it says. I'm not wearing a badge. Don't judge people based on what it says on their badge, on what their job title is. just collect people. People are interesting to talk to, but then the upshot of that, you never know who's seeking the opinion of someone on the shop floor. When I get booked for speaking gigs, this interests me a lot. When I get booked for speaking gigs, it's not usually by the managing director, although they're usually the person who signs it off. The managing director usually goes and asks her assistants, or the sales director or something like that to find speakers for the conference. So a load of people only want to make friends with the, what are they called? C-level executives in an organization, whereas I make friends with everyone. And I make friends with everyone because I genuinely enjoy finding out about people. But guess what? C-level execs go and seek the opinions of the middle management and their assistants and so on before they book a speaker, before they book someone to come into the organization. But loads of other people will walk past the junior and middle managers because they only want to speak to the C-level guys. It makes no sense to me at all.
I agree. I 100% agree. And there's multiple occasions where I've done that. But I want to have this section of the show be pitch my product. If you've listened to Stefan now for 40 minutes, you obviously enjoy what he's saying. So I'm going to give you a 40 seconds or 60 seconds. Or if you've got a workshop coming up or your book, or no, just pitch your thing. Actually, it might be good for the audience to hear your 40 seconds. So I'll put you on the spot, but you're probably good.
I don't mind that in the slightest. So here's my 40 seconds for networking. I'm just looking for my prop whilst I'm talking. Hey, I'm Stefan Thomas. I'm the author of Business Networking for Dummies, as well as Instant Networking and Win the Room. Win the Room, which is endorsed by Ivan Meisner, the founder and chief visionary officer at BNI, the world's largest networking organization. I help people win more business from business networking. Really simply, my clients sell more stuff at events just like this. Recently, I've been working with Tim Beanland. Tim produces podcasts and video shows over in Melbourne, Australia. Tim said to me that after working with me, he went to a networking event and came away with 4 qualified leads from that one networking event alone. If you want those sort of results, if you want to find out how to turn those networking conversations into actual sales, I am running the Networking Success Program in June. It's only 200 UK pounds. I've no idea how that translates into Australian dollars. It's only 200 UK pounds to work with me for a month, where we will completely change and improve your results from networking. If you want to find out more, send me a direct message. There you go.
If I could clap in the microphone without it destroying somebody's ear, I would. I've never done this on the show before after pitch my product, but let's dissect what you just did. Because we just put out a slide deck about this, but let's quickly run through those steps and what you just did to smash that 60 seconds. And I bet someone listening to this podcast is going to ring you after because of it, but let's dissect what you did there.
Tim, what I'm going to ask you to do, which is a bit cheeky, but if you don't mind, put out the link to that slide deck. It's on LinkedIn and it's on Instagram, so people can have the exact template which I used just then.
Yep,
so
it'll be in the description.
There's 6 parts to the 60 seconds I just did. You tell people who you are. So you tell people who you are because when you go round the room in a networking event, you'll get the guy with the quite big voice and the English accent like mine. I'm from the southwest of England. You'll get that voice. The person who's just spoken had a much softer voice and they had a Scottish accent and so on. So it takes you a few seconds to tune into people's voices. So the first thing that you do is tell them who you are and the name of your company. Hi, I'm Stefan Thomas. I'm the author of Business Networking for Dummies. Just to be clear, my company is called The Networking Retreat Limited. To me, it's more relevant to introduce myself as the author of that book. So that's why I do that.
Spot on.
So you tell people who you are. You tell people what you do. I help people win more business from business networking. Really simply, my clients sell more stuff at events just like this. In the second part, all I'm wanting to do is people think, oh God, he helps people sell at networking events. I need to talk to him. all I need to do is to get them to pay attention to the rest of the 60 seconds. I'm aiming to just get to something that will get people to prick up their ears. Third point is I tell them how I do it. I run classes and networking events, networking training events around the country, and I work one-to-one with people. So I tell people how I do it. I then make it real by giving people a testimonial. Recently, I worked with a guy called Tim Beanland, and he achieved this with his networking after working with me. So what I try and do is use a real life testimonial, ideally with someone who's actually in the room. Using a testimonial, making it real, talking about the outcome is really important. This is what someone achieved from working with me. The final thing, point 5, the penultimate thing, is what people need to do next. Listen, in June, I'm running a networking success program. It's only 200 UK pounds. If you want to find out more, just DM me. Good old-fashioned call to action. If I was at a networking event, what I would say is, come and have a one-to-one with me right now. Come and talk to me. Grab me before I leave. Just give people instruction as to what they need to do next. And then the 6th bit, which I didn't do this morning, but I would do at a networking event, is just in case people weren't listening at the beginning, I repeat who I am at the end. That's me, Stefan Thomas, author of Business Networking for Dummies, before I shut up. So the 6-part template, which we can give people away for free after this, that's exactly what I do and what I stick to when I go to networking events. You put me on the spot, so I'm just trying to work out whether I stuck to it word for word. It's not the only template, but it's the one that I've given out recently. There you go.
Fantastic. Lastly, let's get to know Stefan. So when you're not networking, when you're not doing that stuff, what are you doing in your spare time these days?
These days I can't do what I do in my spare time because I go to a lot of punk and rock gigs is what I would normally answer that question. So going to see punk bands in the UK, going to see punk bands all over the place, and rock bands is something that I like doing. Most recent Australian band I've seen was Airborne a few years ago. Go and see punk and rock all over the place. These days I spend a load of time listening to music. I go to the gym. As some people will have spotted, I've lost a little bit of weight recently. The most important people in my life, I've got 3 sons who I spend a great deal of time with: Joe, George, and Patrick. Spend as much time with as I can. They're teenagers and in their 20s. They're busy. It's good to see them as often as I can. And then Sharon and I are getting married. My partner and I are getting married in August of this year. So that bit's keeping us pretty busy as well. So yeah, life's busy, Tim. And then early every morning in the UK, tea time in Oz. I speak to you pretty much every morning.
That's probably the best part of the day.
Definitely.
What is it about what you do that you really love? Like, what is that thing that when someone says this is what happened, or when you're in the thick of it, quickly, what is that thing that is like, this is why I do what I do?
I'm shallow. So when I speak on stage, people laugh at my jokes, people clap. I get to speak to audiences of thousands of people, and that there's a buzz. There's no two ways about it. I love that. That's the honest answer. I really ought to give a better answer than that, but that's the answer about what I get from being on stage. And the other thing that I love is that when I spoke at the Marketing Business Summit in Milan in Italy a couple of years ago now, and that was an awesome show. And later that night, someone tweeted me to say, "I've taken some of your advice. We went straight to a cafe after the show and followed up with a load of the people that we'd met at the show, and one of them has already signed up to our services. We did what you said. It worked. Thank you." How awesome is that? Someone comes along to a show, they actually take the advice, and they went and sat in a cafe with their laptops and followed up with all of the people they'd met at the show and actually started making sales just by following what I'd suggested to them. So I get a buzz because they clapped and they cheered when I was on stage, and then they actually make sales out of it. Other people have to save lives for a living or do building work and stuff like that. And all I do is talk to people. I pinch myself every day to remind myself how awesome that is, that I get to do this for a living. That's the reality of my life.
Amazing. And do you have a quote or a phrase or something that you see or have said? Because you have ones that I would actually answer this question to myself with your quotes. But do you have a quote that stands out to you that you really enjoy and you take a lot from it when you either say it or hear it?
Yeah, there's two things. Look, every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. No matter what I've done in my life, all of it's involved selling something. We always had to start conversations with people. It doesn't have to be a big conversation as long as you get the conversation started and then do something with it. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. Remember that. If you're listening to this, start a new conversation today. Go out and talk to some people that you've already talked to today. The second thing is, which I can't remember who told me this back in the day, but it sticks with me. That thing that you're worrying about right now, it's probably going to be okay. Remind myself of that one every day as well, because I worry about a lot of stuff. But in the history of me worrying about stuff, most of it has worked out all right, and that's the same for everyone else as well.
Incredible. And if someone's resonated with something that you've said and they want to reach out to you, have a chat, where is the best place to connect with you and find out more about you?
Probably LinkedIn. So just go and find me, search me, Stefan Thomas on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. Any of those places. I'm pretty good at replying to messages. If it takes me a few hours or if it takes me a day, I apologize. Just means I'm speaking that day. But yeah, hit me up on any of the social media channels. I like to make myself quite easy to find. So, and with a relatively unusual name, hopefully people will be able to find me. By the way, I'm not the Stefan Thomas who lost all of that money on Bitcoin. I'm a different Stefan Thomas. So, yeah.
Yeah. SEO wise, I don't I'm a marketer. Type in Stefan Thomas, STEFAN networking.
Yeah.
When you Google Stefan Thomas networking, we have to get an SEO guy on that for you, and maybe I can introduce you to a few people.
The other Stefan Thomas lost, what was it, $60 million or something, because he he lost the laptop or lost his key to get into his Bitcoin wallet or something like that.
That's insane. Stefan, thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate your time. I'm going to end this by reiterating something. The real opportunity is no one else bothers. And if you want to reach out to Stefan and you think, I'll do it and I'll get around to it, the real opportunity is not a lot of people will bother to do it. So the one person that does reach out to him and say, hey, I listened to this podcast, he's going to really appreciate that. So Stefan, thank you for coming on. I've been Tim. You've been Stefan. We've been talking. Thank you for being the expert and showing us your blueprint today.
I love your sign off. Love that. Thank you for having me.